Hello and welcome to this lecture, and in this lecture we are going to learn how we could go ahead and add images to our Firebase database. So in some cases what might happen is that you might have to create some kind of application in which you are going to upload images in your database. So nowadays in most of the application, whether it be a chat application or some social app, it's always going to be a need to basically go ahead, take images from the user and upload it to the database. So for example, let's say you're making any application and it's going to have users, so you do need to have the user ID wherein you need to collect the user's profile picture. So we are going to learn how to do that, or how to basically go ahead and add up an image in our database by using Firebase. So in this case what I have done here is that I've created a completely new project from scratch, and I've named that project as Image Pro, as this is going to be an image application. So in this lecture we will only learn how to upload the image, and in the upcoming lectures we are actually going to design an application wherein we will learn how to retrieve that particular image. So let's go ahead and get started with the lecture. So the first thing which you need to do is that you do need to set up Firebase once again. So you go to Tools, select Firebase, and in here you directly go to the storage option. So as you could see here we have bunch of options, and we have learnt about authentication and real-time database. Now for storage you simply click over here and click this option which says upload and download file with Firebase storage. So when you click that, the first thing which pops up is that you do need to connect your application to Firebase. Now if you're using the previous application from the previous lecture, then you would be fine, but if you are creating a new application like me, then you simply need to connect to the Firebase, as we have done in the first lecture of Firebase. So it's basically going to ask us to create a project, so click connect to Firebase, and we are basically good to go. So it's going to add up a few dependencies and do a bunch of changes and create the project for us. So right now I do have some projects over here, and it's going to add another project over here. So let's hope this finishes quickly. And if you actually store images by using Firebase, your image storage and retrieval process becomes much more easier as compared to if you're directly uploading images to the server. In that case the process becomes quite a bit complicated. So with Firebase it's actually quite easy. You just have to do a bunch of things and you're good to go. Okay, so I actually have an error. It says connection to Firebase failed. Please check your internet connection and try again. So let me just go ahead and check if my internet connection is working correctly. Yeah, now the project has been created, but for some reason it says not connected. So let me just connect once again, and these things might happen. Okay, so as you could see now this thing says this app is already connected. Click sync to update the configuration information. Okay, so that means we have connected, so simply click sync, and is actually going to connect the project to Firebase. Okay, so once the project is connected, the next thing which we do is that we add Firebase storage to your app. So this is going to add some dependencies to your applications, which are these dependencies right here. So simply click on accept changes, and once that thing is done, we are basically good to go. So once we are connected, the next thing which we do is that we go ahead and design the main activity, which is nothing but the layout of our activity. So if you go to preview right now, we will have the basic text over here. So I'm going to delete that, and instead we are going to have a simple button over here. So I'm going to type in button, and I guess it's still indexing. Okay, so once this thing is done, I'm going to add a button over here, and this button is going to be wrap content and wrap content, and let's say the text inside this button says upload image, and we will have an on click which says something like, actually this should be Android text. Okay, and the on click says something like, let's say button clicked. Okay, so once this thing is done, we are basically good to go. Now let me just go to the main activity, and here we are going to start writing our code. So again, if you click this assistant right here, as you could see, Firebase actually provides you documentation within your Android Studio application. So as you could see, the first thing which you need to do is that you do need to include a storage reference. So just as we had a reference to the database, you also need to have a reference to the storage as well. So let's go ahead and declare the storage reference. So we will go right here, and let me just close this thing, and I'm going to type in private. That's going to be storage reference, and as you could see now, it has imported this thing, which is the storage reference, and let's name the storage reference as storage reference itself. And once this thing is done, we are basically good to go. Now we are going to initialize the storage reference inside the oncreate method as well. So we'll go into the oncreate and type in storage reference equals, that is going to be Firebase storage dot get instance dot get reference. So as you could see, these steps are quite similar, which we have done in case of the database. So now the next thing which we need to do is that we want to start the gallery activity or gallery intent when we click this button. So what we do here is that we write the code for the on click of this button, which is the button clicked. So we go right here, type in public void button clicked. This is going to have view if we need it. And then the next thing which you need to do is that you need to go ahead and you need to create, or you need to start the new intent, which is the gallery intent. So we'll type in intent equals new intent, and we type in intent dot action pick. That is basically the intent to pick some item. So intent action pick. And the next thing which we do is that we set the type of intent. So we type intent dot set type, and that is going to be image slash star, because we want to select an image. So image slash star. And then the next thing which we do is that we start the intent. So we'll type in start activity for result, not just the start activity, and pass in the intent over here. And the next thing which you need to pass in is the request code. So in order to pass in the request code, you first need to create a request code. So that's going to be private static final int, and that's going to be, let's say, gallery intent, and let's type in the request code as 1, and we are going to pass in that request code over here, and we are going to use this request code in the onActivityResult method. So once this thing is done, the next thing which we need to do is that we need to write the code for the onActivityResult method. So what the onActivityResult method actually does is that it checks what happens when you actually go ahead and finish everything from this particular method. So this method is actually going to start up the gallery activity so that we are able to actually choose an image which we want. And the next things which are going to happen are going to be executed from the onActivityResult method. So let's type in the onActivityResult method, and as you could see, the method is created. So delete the super, and in here the first thing which we do is that we check if the request code is nothing but the gallery intent. So we type if, and that's going to be if request code is equal to gallery intent, and also the result code should be okay. So if result code is equal to result okay, that means we are good to go and we could proceed ahead. So the next thing which you need to do is that you need to get the URI from this data right here, and the URI is actually the path where the image is actually stored. So let's create a URI object or variable. So that's going to be URI equals, and from the data we get the data, which is basically the path of our image. So once we have this path, the next thing which we do is that we basically go ahead and create another storage reference. So here we have a storage reference, and now let's create another one right over here. So that's going to be storage reference file path equals storage reference dot child, and in here you actually want to store it into the child which is called as photos, and again we add another child which is basically the URI of your image. So that's going to be URI dot get last path segment, and then after this what we basically go ahead and do is that we go ahead and type in file path dot put file and pass in the URI over here. So what this basically does is that it's going to add an image to the backend. So once this thing is done, what we do is that we want to make sure that everything is completed successfully. So in order to ensure that, we add an onSuccess listener to it. So we type add onSuccess listener. That's going to be new onSuccess listener, and make sure to give a semicolon over here. And in this onSuccess method, we basically type in the code which we want to execute once the image is successfully uploaded. So once the image is uploaded, what we want to do is that we want to display to the user a toast which says that the image has been uploaded. So we type toast.makeText. That's going to be main activity dot this comma, and the message is going to be something like image uploaded, and the toast length is going to be length long, and finally show the toast by using the show method. So once this thing is done, we are pretty much good to go. So now let's save the code and see if this app actually works. So let me just save the code and run the application, and if we have any errors, we are going to correct them right away. So as you could see, the application is up and running, and when I click this upload image button, it says you could select the gallery option. And in here, I'm going to select this image right here, and it's going to take a while for the image to upload. And once the upload is complete, you will be able to actually go ahead and see the toast over here. And if we do have any errors, I'll let you know, and we'll fix those errors as well. Okay, so I guess we do have some errors in our code. Yeah, we do have some errors. So yeah, the first and foremost thing which we almost forgot is we forgot to enable the permission, which is the permission which helps us to store data in our project. So simply open up the Image Pro, and if you go to storage, and if you go to the rules of storage, as you could see, it actually requires authentication. And what you do need to make sure is that you need to disable these rules as long as you're developing these applications. And once you have provided the login facility, you have to re-enable these rules. So simply hit publish. And once this thing is done, let's also learn about some other errors as well. And one more thing which you do need to remember is that if you go to the manifest, as we are actually reading from the external storage, you need to include this permission right here. So I've directly included this permission right here, which is the android.permission.read external storage. So after making these two changes, that is basically setting this equal to null, hitting publish, and after setting up this permission in the manifest, our application should be able to run fine. So I'm going to save the code now and run this application and see how it works. Okay, as you could see, the application is up and running. So let me just record my screen. Okay, so as you could see, we have our application. So I'm going to click upload image, go to gallery, select this image right over here. And if you look on the screen, it says no auth token for request, but soon we are going to get a token or toast here. And as you could see, it says image uploaded. So let me just stop the application, and we will go into the storage and check if the image is actually stored over there. So I'm going to stop this, go back to Firebase, go to storage. And if you go into the files, as you could see, now we have the folder created, and I've made a typo. This should be actually photos, so sorry for that. So when you open this thing up, as you could see, we have two images. So this is the image which I have uploaded in order to test previously. So let's open up the first image. So this was the image which I have uploaded previously. And if you open up the second image which we have uploaded right now, that should be the correct one. Okay, as you could see, this is the image which we have uploaded right now. So you could upload as many images as you want. So that's it for this lecture, and you actually learned how to go ahead and upload images to Firebase using the storage reference. So the next part which remains in this case is how to basically go ahead and retrieve those images, but we are not going to learn that immediately. Instead, we are going to learn that while we create some kind of Firebase application, which we are going to learn in the next section. So thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Thank you.